This is the all-new N-Trek, the latest variant in Nissan's X-Trail lineup, and it is built on the STL grade trim, which puts it firmly in the middle of the range, but with a few extra details which are meant to refer to the car's outdoors-inspired character. And that's all very well to be designed for adventure, but this is a 7-seat medium SUV. It's very much a family car. So I need to know, is it as capable pottering around the suburbs as its rivals, for example, the Volkswagen Tiguan Allspace, the Mitsubishi Outlander, and the Honda CR-V, to name but a few? So let's hop in and take it for a spin. The X-Trail N-Trek is priced from $47,290 for the 5-seat front-wheel drive model, or the 7-seat all-wheel drive I'm testing is priced from $50,390, both before on-road costs are applied. This compares to the Mitsubishi Outlander Aspire 4-wheel drive at $47,340 plus on-road costs, and the Volkswagen Tiguan Allspace 132 TSI Life and Honda CR-V VTI L7 at $47,990 and $53,000 respectively, both drive-away prices. These other cars are all 7-seaters, but all have different engine sizes and power outputs. This is a medium-sized SUV, so that does make it on the smaller end of 7-seaters available. If you're regularly carrying 7 passengers or you have a large family, then if I were you, I would consider moving up to a base-level large SUV. For example, the Nissan Pathfinder, the Kia Sorento, or the Hyundai Palisade. But if you want to be really practical, then you might want to consider the humble people mover. Yes, they're a little bit daggy, but they have so much more space than an SUV can offer. The N-Trek comes with keyless entry and a push-button start, dual-zone air conditioning, heated and ventilated seats, an electric-powered driver's seat, front parking sensors and a 360-degree camera, which are also standard in the STL as well. The N-Trek is 1,725mm high, 4,680mm in length, and 1,840mm wide. This makes it a little bit slimmer, shorter and smaller than both the Honda CR-V and the Mitsubishi Outlander, though roughly on par with the Tiguan Allspace. This may negatively impact interior space. We'll take a look shortly, but bear in mind this is also lighter than its 3 nearest competitors, which may make it a little more dynamic and fuel efficient. The shell of this car certainly looks like a classic X-Trail, but there's no denying that there's a certain robustness to this new variant, starting with some of the black details. Let's look at the dark finish on this V-Motion grille here. Now, interestingly, the V-Motion grille on the other variants of the X-Trail are finished in chrome. And then, of course, you've got the black wing mirrors, black door handles, and black roof rails. There are these new aggressive-looking LED fog lights integrated into the lower front bumper here, and then you'll look at the 18-inch alloy wheels. There's a new design that's unique only to the N-Trek. If you're enjoying this review and you want to help me out a little bit, then hit the thumbs up button and I will be able to bring you more reviews. So the first thing you might notice if you're familiar with the STL is that this variant comes with a much bigger infotainment screen. This is 12.3 inches compared to the 8-inch screen in the STL. And I've also got a 12.3-inch driver's display in front of me and a 10.8-inch head-up display as well. 12.3 inches is very big for this segment. That's much larger than any of the rivals I've mentioned in this review so far. And what else does the car come with? Well, it comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, although Android Auto does require a cable to connect. And you've got yourself a USB-C and USB-A port down here and a 12-volt outlet as well. You've also got this rubberized dock here for your phone, although I will mention that isn't actually a wireless phone charger. You do still require a cable if you need to charge. So unlike the STL, again, this car has built-in navigation. So there are quite a few tech advancements, but despite these strides forward with the tech, one thing this car still has is physical buttons, hallelujah, on both the dash and the steering wheel to control climate, volume, and the like. I think this central storage area is actually very neat and well thought out. You've got your 2 cup holders here, a gear stick, a toggle for your driving modes, and then despite being quite slender, this central storage bin is deceptively deep. I can fit in a pretty large water bottle in there.
Other storage options in the front include a drink bottle holder in each door, a sunglasses holder and a relatively small glove compartment.
I really like the mix of materials used in this car. In fact, one of my colleagues even asked me if it was the highest spec because it looks so smart. One problem I tend to have in other cars is when so many different materials are used that it can look like a bit of a clash. But in here, I actually think the mix of synthetic leather, the piano black, the brushed metal effect here, all actually looks really harmonious. Although if I was going to critique anything at all, it would be this really unnecessary two-tone brown and black here. The other thing I really like is this honeycomb effect on the seats here. I think it looks really sort of sporty. It works with the adventurous aesthetic of the car. And more importantly for parents, I suspect it's easier to clean. These seats are pretty firm and well bolstered. There's certainly no melting back into them, which is very good for longer journeys. Plus, the driver's seat is electrically adjustable, and both the driver's seat and the passenger's seat has the option to be heated, which I'm definitely going for on a day like today. The only thing I will say is that the cabin in the front here feels a little bit tight, which checks out because if you remember, this car is a little bit leaner than its rivals. Funnily enough, I actually feel like I have more space in the second row than I did in the first row, which I'll put down to not having the central console and the dashboard in front of me. In terms of headroom and leg space, you can see I've certainly got enough space for my legs and feet and enough headspace, but bear in mind I'm 171 centimetres. So if you're a bit taller, say over 6 foot, like Lucas, who's behind the camera now, then I dare say you might have a bit more of a tight squeeze. In terms of amenities, you've got another USB-A and USB-C port, you've got directional air vents, and you've actually got sun blinds as well that you can pull up and down. You've got large drink bottle holders in the door bins here, and then also 2 additional cup holders when you pull down the middle seat, and also a handy phone holder as well.
Isofix points can be found on the outboard seats of the second row, and thanks to the space, you can easily fit 2 baby seats here in the back.
So this third row was a bit of a tight squeeze to actually get into, and then it's still a tight squeeze when I'm sat in it. To be honest with you, if I was using this third row regularly, this is again where I would opt for a larger car because really this space is only feasible for children and adults on very short journeys. And in terms of amenities, well, you've got a couple of cup holders, but that's really it. So the third row feels very rudimentary. The N-Trek has a pretty meagre 163 litres of boot space when the third row is in use, but this isn't unusual for a medium-sized SUV 7-seater, which again begs the question, if you do need more space, why not go for a larger model? When the third row is flat though, you do have 465 litres, which is much more reasonable. You've also got a space saver spare wheel and this cargo blind, and then also this divider, which is handy if you've only got a few shopping bags, because obviously it stops from the contents spilling everywhere.
Unfortunately for the N-Trek, 2 of its rivals tend to fare a little bit better in the boot department. The Outlander and the Tiguan Allspace both offer more generous cargo space with either the second and third row folded, or just the third row folded. The Nissan X-Trail N-Trek is an all-wheel drive car powered by a 2.5 litre petrol engine which produces 135 kilowatts and 244 newton meters. It also has a braked towing capacity of 2,000 kilograms and an unbraked capacity of 750 kilograms.
So the first thing to say about this car is that it comes in all-wheel drive, which is great on a rainy day like today, as it helps me put the power down. Overall, this is a really nice car to drive. It's quite predictable, it doesn't feel too big and clunky, and all of the safety features are pretty unobtrusive. Now, that may make it sound like not a particularly exciting drive, but it's a medium-sized SUV. It doesn't need to be. It's going to be spending most of its time pottering around the suburbs, maybe doing a couple of city commutes. It's not going to be doing a lot of hardcore off-roading.
The N-Trek offers 5 different driving and terrain modes, including off-road and snow, and it has hill descent control.
So if you're in the market for an all-wheel drive car, why is that? What do you want to use it for? Let us know in the comments below. The brake is a little bit more sensitive than some other cars I've driven, but that is something you quickly get used to. And I have to say, I wouldn't say the same for the accelerator, which is incredibly responsive. When I put my foot down, the response is immediate. So whilst it isn't going at lightning speeds, the 2.5 litre engine certainly is doing its job properly. It's quite firm, it's a little bit hard-edged over some lumps and bumps, but when you're on any normal bit of road, it's actually a very smooth drive. This is something I think other brands may have perfected a little more, having found that sweet spot between ride comfort but also being sturdy enough to absorb potholes and the like. Visibility in the car is good. You've got a big windscreen in front of you, a pretty sizable rear window, and also good sized wing mirrors as well. But of course, there is plenty of safety technology to aid you as well. If you are finding visibility a little bit compromised, you've got a 360-degree camera, you've got front and rear sensors, and you've got blind spot monitoring as well. And like any good suburban runaround, it's nice and quiet in the cabin here too.
The Nissan X-Trail has a 5-star ANCAP safety rating and is fitted with a number of different safety assist features, including autonomous emergency braking with junction assist, blind spot warning and active assist, collision mitigation and warning, lane keeping assist and lane departure warning, cruise control, speed limiter, driver fatigue and driver attention monitoring, front and rear parking sensors, and a 360-degree camera.
Whilst I think the N-Trek is probably best suited to the suburbs or perhaps the city commute, it is nice to know that you can be a little bit more adventurous with those off-roading focused driving modes and also the all-wheel drive capability.
Nissan claims a fuel consumption of 7.8 litres per 100 kilometres, though upon real-world testing, I returned a reading of 9 litres per 100 kilometres. This isn't bad, roughly on par with other medium SUVs, but if fuel economy is important to you, then you might want to consider the hybrid e-Power X-Trail, which currently is available in the 3 other grades of the model, but not the N-Trek.
The other area for consideration is the long-term ownership costs. The X-Trail is covered by a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty and requires servicing every 10,000 kilometres, whereas some of its rivals have servicing intervals of 15,000 kilometres. And then the other thing to consider is resale value. Unfortunately, the X-Trail has a poorer resale value than some of its competitors. And whilst I don't want that to dictate your purchasing decision, it certainly is something for consideration. Where the N-Trek mostly differs from the STL is in the design. And if you're a fan of that slightly more rugged look or not is totally a personal preference. However, it has had some technological advancements that the STL was lacking, and that makes it a really compelling car, especially as it's got a really great cabin, or at least in the first 2 rows, and it's a really good drive. However, where I see some red flags are around the running costs and the long-term ownership costs. And then, of course, there's the question of, is it actually a practical 7-seater? It's a fantastic 5-seater, and there is, in fact, a 5-seat N-Trek available at a lesser cost. But if you're using all 7 seats daily, then I'm not sure it's going to be the most practical option for you. I do think the N-Trek is going to prove some really serious competition in that medium SUV segment, but if you're going to be using all 3 rows consistently, then I do think you should consider either a larger SUV or a people mover for practicality. If you're interested in looking at other cars to get your family around, why not check out our top picks for best family cars in Australia, which is above me now.